was a spunky little guy who knew what he wanted, very opinionated, very strong-willed.
Me and Ethan love each other. Don't we, Buzz?
Loved his brother to pieces. Whenever you give Ethan a treat, he'd say, Ada, Ada, and he'd get one for him too and take him one.
Aiden and Ethan were inseparable.
Very close. When he was born, Aiden just thought he was the best thing since sliced bread. He used to help change his nappies.
Whatever his brother did, he had to be involved in it. He was well above his age group because he just hung with the 5-year-olds and did whatever the 5-year-olds wanted.
Got me. Got me.
Even when he was in hospital and he wasn't walking for a little while, the physios would come in and couldn't get him to move, but when Aiden came to visit, he's like, I've got to get up. I've got to get down there and play with Aiden on the floor. So, yeah.
Ethan was 22 months old when his parents insisted on a scan, not convinced he was recovering from a urinary tract infection.
Then they just said to us that we found a mass on his adrenal gland and our world changed.
That mass? Neuroblastoma, a complex cancer that affects only 40 Aussie children a year, most of them under 5. Sometimes the tumours are benign and may even resolve themselves, but in other cases, there's only a 50% chance of survival.
When did you realise how serious it was?
The first day we got in to emergency, once we got to Sydney Kids, we knew within a couple of hours, and he started deteriorating. You know, we could see groups of oncologists and we knew things weren't going in the direction we had hoped.
Ethan's body was riddled with cancer. Chemotherapy, his only hope.
How did that affect his little body?
It was very, very hard on him. So up to 20 hours a day, you know, with no breaks.
After 3 months of treatment, news no parent wants to hear.
Didn't do much at all. We went, oh, you know, we're in trouble here.
What was the next step?
So they put us on a clinical trial, immunotherapy clinical trial, and that started to show some signs of it working, which was great.
But it was incredibly hard on his body. He was very, very ill when he was on that one and in a fair bit of pain.
But the clinical trial was working, Ethan's body gaining the upper hand.
Suddenly we had a disease that did nothing to a disease now that it was starting to respond, which was amazing. So then it went from what felt like we're going nowhere to all of a sudden was full steam ahead.
Doctors would then do the unthinkable, bringing little Ethan close to death on purpose.
They then put Ethan through a double bone marrow transplant, which is a really intense treatment. You know, basically a nurse explained it to us, will basically kill everything good in the body and take the person as close to death as possible and put their stem cells in and build them back up.
On the 10th of December last year, finally, some good news.
Ethan literally had cancer in every bone in his body when we walked in. There wasn't a single fingers, toes, skull, every bone in his body had cancer. And then all of a sudden, 8 months later, they turned around and they told us that it was gone. It was just an incredible, we were a bit sort of like, whoa, I don't know what's going on here.
Won the lottery.
Yeah, it was great.
Go.
Let's
Go.
After a risky 9.5-hour operation by 3 surgeons to remove the remaining primary tumour, Ethan had been all but saved. Aiden would get his little brother back.
It was the greatest moment of our life. We both looked at each other and started crying. Our oncologist walked into the ICU after he came out of his operation, and he just walked straight up to me and just hugged me. And like, and it wasn't any normal hug. It was like the hug of the whole of the hospital. You know, we'd been there for such a long time. I'll never forget it. It was a hug that I'll never forget. And I think it was just, we were high-fiving, Lisa. We were walking through the hospital high-fiving, you know, nurses and other families, and like everyone knew Ethan's story because he'd been, you know, pretty much 12 months in the place.
Ethan relished every moment outside of hospital.
And those pigeons are endangered.
They are. Yeah,
there goes Aiden.
Yeah, and very active. Like, there was no sign at all that anything was wrong at this stage.
They didn't know, but the cancer had returned.
Unfortunately, with neuroblastoma, if it comes back, there's 0% chance of survival. It's over. So Kate had already left to pick up Aiden, so I had to ring her and say, pull over.
School run.
Pull over, we've got a problem.
And I just had this feeling, and I'd been upset all that day. I knew something wasn't right. And Ryan had said that it's back, it's on his lungs. And that was the shocking part, because it hadn't been there before. I thought, we're in real trouble here if it's spread somewhere new.
Whoa, it's rough seas.
And how long did the doctors give him?
And we said, we just want 2 months. If you could get us 2 months so we can get all our family from Victoria up and we can finally get a family holiday.
They never got to take that holiday. Ethan's lungs were covered in cancer. Kate and Ryan told he had just days to live.
How was that time between Aiden and Ethan?
Horrible.
It was difficult.
It was very difficult.
Because we told Aiden, we made the decision we would tell Aiden what was happening.
That's got to be one of the toughest conversations any parent would ever have to have, I would have thought.
And unfortunately, he did the 7 stages of grief in about 30 seconds. He didn't know what to do. Why did you tell me? He jumped up, he got angry, he ran over to Ethan, he held him, he kissed him, he ran to the door to get out of the place. It was heartbreaking, to be honest. There's no other way to put it. It was horrible, but it had to happen. And you know, he gave him a really beautiful kiss and cuddle when they walked out. You know, as hard as all of it was, they held each other and embraced really nicely. And yeah, I'm at peace with it now, because the last memory I've got of those two together was really nice.
What do you remember of those final moments with Ethan?
The machines are just slowly telling us his oxygen rate's going down, but he's got us and he's got cuddles and he's comfortable. So that was a relief. Yeah. And then we got our cuddles. We were there with him the whole time. So
we just held him, and Kate spent a lot of time with him in the bed together, and it was a bit like the movies, right? The machine just turned around and just flatlines, and that was it. And it was hard, but at the same time, it was nice to know that it was over for him, to be fair.
Only 3 days after the cancer returned, Ethan gave up the fight last month. Forever 2 years old.
This is still so incredibly new for both of you. So why have you decided to share Ethan's story?
it's the only thing we can do for him now.
It's hard to walk into a hospital and turn around and be told that your son's got a 1 in 2 chance of living.
Kate and Ryan are encouraging people to donate to Neuroblastoma Australia and take part in their Run to Cure event, hoping to raise $200,000 for research into this rare cancer.
You know, we could get survival rates not to a cure, but, you know, to 80, 90%, so at least they've got a chance. Would be amazing.
How often do you find yourself looking at these images?
I look at them every day, Ryan.
This is the first time I've done it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't do it.
You okay?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see him like it because, yeah, you just wish he was still here. I can still feel him. Like, honestly, I can still, you know, I picked Aiden up the other day and I held him and I'm like, I could still feel Ethan. And, yeah, I don't want to lose that.
Rip that t-shirt.
And how do you think Aiden will remember his little brother?
As cheeky, funny, and always chasing him.
Yeah, just crazy. Just a shadow. Yeah, he'll remember his brother as a shadow because he used to just follow him. The two of them would just follow each other around, and that's the hardest bit of this whole thing for me is the fact that two brothers won't grow old together. Like, yeah, it's just hard to think, and that's going to be really difficult for him.